So, I want to address JD Delay for a video that you ended up making. And I'll be honest, this is the first time I've seen from any of your videos some legitimate, true reflecting. Like, when I say legitimate, true reflecting, I mean acknowledgement that you actually take what you're trying to do in life seriously, and that you're not just using it as a ruse. Alright? Which, I'll be honest with you, for the longest time, I thought you were using it as a ruse. But the level of self-reflection that you showed actually shows me that, I can be a little bit more open-minded about where the advice comes from. Alright? So, in your video, it was my fault. You owned up to the reason that that you hated, constantly being in the system. As far as the price that your kid had to pay. Alright? So, I'm going to tell you a little something. The main part of the reason why my life was shit was because of the factor of my sperm donor going ahead and making the decisions that you made that ended up leading to the same circumstances. Alright? And how that reflected on me. Alright? So where I grew up, it was an open secret that my sperm donor was never getting out of prison. It wasn't a mystery, But I mean, this motherfucker lacks sense. This motherfucker in a birthday card ended up sending me a death threat, which could have caught him a new charge, and fucking mailed it through the fucking, jail system, which literally what I had wondered to myself was, he wrote a fucking death threat in my birthday card and sent it to me. How the fuck did the Department of Justice and the Department of Corrections not catch that? Like, if they actually sorted through the mail and they actually read people's messages, how the fuck did they not realize the factor that an inmate that apparently ended up going to prison for rape and murder ended up sending a death threat, alright? Threatening to kill his own offspring. And to add insult and injury, he put it into a fucking birthday card, alright? If you ask me, that's a pretty fucking good villain origin story. So, to continue on, because it being a byproduct of him, people automatically assumed that I was going to go ahead and end up making his mistakes. And the fucked up thing is, somebody ended up making false allegations on me. And with those false allegations, because keep in mind, he claimed that he was innocent, he claimed that he was framed, and he was framed because he owed somebody money. Alright? So somebody trying to pull that same bullshit to me, there's only one difference. You know what that is? I also ended up getting shoved into psych wards my entire life. Can't forget the psych wards. There was also constant behavioral programs being put into place, alright? I got put on persons in supervision. If anything, the fucked up thing is, the reason that I ended up with a record for a little bit was because of the fact that the same person that wanted to act as the plaintiff in numerous different states, they lied to the court and ended up making the court in North Carolina think that the issue that I was dealing with was criminal, not clarifying to the court, oh no, this is not a the whole thing, the investigation, all that got started, it didn't get started on a criminal referral. It got started on a family court referral. And I know you're probably thinking, what's the difference? The court's going ahead and trying you like you came in on a criminal referral rather than a family court referral. That makes all the difference in the world, because that makes the courts think that you did something criminal and that, you need to go ahead and, you present a public danger and need to be taken away from society. If the courts would have known that the case that they were handling was a family court referral from a family court in another state and not a criminal court in another state, the whole process would have been entirely different. Alright? Not to mention that, but my constitutional rights wouldn't have gotten trampled on. So, that being said, you know what I found most insulting about that card? Knowing the fact that we hadn't been in contact much throughout the entirety of my life. He got pissed off that I called him my father and not my dad. And I had clarified to him, dads teach a kid how to ride a bike. Dads teach a kid how to play baseball. They're there when there are problems. They're there to give advice. They're there for those milestones. You weren't there. There was somebody that actually taught me this stuff that you were supposed to teach me, and they were there for that. So, I'd much rather go ahead and call him dad, and you ain't getting that. So, ultimately, I added insult to injury. With anything and everything in the world that he could have ended up wanting, there are two things that he could have wanted more than anything, and I denied him of it. Those two things: his freedom, which I couldn't change that if I wanted to, and the second thing, recognition for the part that he played in my conception. And I denied him that. From what I know, he died being denied that. So recognize something. When you hear people go ahead and make references of, oh yeah, obviously, always knew that there was something, all the stereotypical bullshit. That's what sins of the father means. Alright? I was viewed as a degenerate lowlife that was never going to make anything of myself, and that was never going to have a fucking chance in life. All because of the factor of being a byproduct of somebody that was never going to see the light of day again. I don't know about you, but for me, no matter the circumstances, it doesn't get more real than that. And you know what the fucked up thing is? The same person that people wanted to throw those stigmas onto? Yeah. Do you know what I do in my time? When I'm not trying to learn something, do you know what I do with my time? Do you know what I'm into? Alright? Yes, I do enjoy what you refer to as the chuckle brush. Alright? Yes, I do find that relaxing. I do find that a good aid to be able to assist in tempering myself, and as well as being able to work through my anxiety and my trauma. Helps be able to bring me down to a 3 or a 4 when I've been escalated to a 10 because somebody wanted to fuck around and find out. Alright? So, If that's the damning factor that shows everything about my character, go fuck yourself. By going ahead and stating that that's determined to you who the fuck I am and what the fuck I'm about. Ultimately, in the process of making that judgment, you've shown that you're judgmental, snobby, rigid, unable to develop malleability, forget about in any which way being malleable, and are able to actually go ahead and learn something, which, by the way, when you stop learning, that is when you stop developing as a human being. Alright? So if you stop learning, and I'm not talking about going to school, I'm talking if you even stop learning from life lessons that are meant to go ahead and bring you back to being grounded. Alright? Stably feet on the ground. When your perception of grandiosity ends up going ahead and making you think you're above everything and everyone. That right there, that mentality, that attitude, that's exactly what's going to make me disregard anything and everything that you have ever fucking said to me. Alright? So the reason for going ahead and delivering this message is because of the factor that people go ahead and talk about accountability and say, nothing can happen to you that you didn't bring on yourself or that you didn't cause myself. Alright? There are circumstances where the perception of people end up being developed by the ways that the person was utilized. Alright? So, like, for example, ending up in a juvenile court, despite it being a juvenile family court. That happened because of the factor of having a parent that committed fraud and wanted to blame said fraud on the child with the exact purpose and mentality of, well, they're a kid. They'll get off easy. If I get caught, my life is thrown away. Fuck them. Self-preservation. While at the same time, wanting to be perceived as a good parent. No. No, you don't put your child through that and then get to go ahead and act like you're capable of even giving parenting advice without the factor of, wait, didn't you go ahead and frame your child for fraud? And didn't they almost get killed when they were locked up? Doing time being locked up for you? Really acknowledge where accountability starts and self-reflection starts and all of that. Alright? Because with not knowing how to commit fraud, while at the same time getting predatorily nitpicked financially and financially abused the entirety of my life, yeah, that makes it pretty fucking difficult to be able to go ahead and take accountability for apparently doing something that I wouldn't be able to understand how to do, let alone having to do the time without doing the crime. But I'm doing the time because the crime was committed, but I wasn't the one who committed the crime. But I did the time, so apparently I should turn the other cheek and not make the person that actually did the crime do the time. Because, hey, we should acknowledge they're older, they've gotten to learn a little bit and everything. So, ultimately, you already did time for it, Nobody else has to pay for the debt that you've already paid to society. Why should anybody else have to be a casualty? Well, I was a casualty. Well, they actually committed the crime, so why the fuck would I not want them locked up? See my point?